Now, hear me out. Is it possible that climate change is leading to more E. coli outbreaks? The two don't quite seem related now, do they? But let's back up and view this kind of big picture. So, back in 2022, the United Kingdom had a specific E. coli outbreak that saw 259 reported cases. And just a side note here, this is reported cases, and some researchers suggest that for every reported case, there is upwards of 3 to 4 unreported cases. So to have 259 reported cases is a lot.
Yeah, it's pretty high.
Now, this particular E. coli strand is known as STEC, STEC, and it stands for Shiga toxin producing E. coli. So this isn't just like your standard E. coli, this is kind of like your elevated E. coli. Now, what's interesting here is that researchers traced the contamination back to lettuce that was tainted with sheep feces. And I know what you're thinking. We talk a lot about poop, and well, we do. I mean, I'm not going to lie. I don't know why my Google feed feeds me stories about food and poop. But anywho, back to the story. So the team was able to use historical weather data to pinpoint that a heavy rainfall event may have washed the sheep poop into the lettuce growers' land because they were not directly adjacent. So think of the sheep, area was like up a hill, a couple miles away, and then it got down to the farm because we've talked before about, farmers relocating animals from pooping in their fields. So obviously you're not going to plant lettuce next to a sheep farm. That's a little too close for comfort. But so by using that archived weather data, researchers were able to connect the dots. And using those new techniques that this tracks weather data of like rainfall and temperature, that information about how the land in the area is used and information about the location of different livestock helps them better understand events that could lead to outbreaks based on the location of the growers. Right. So their whole thing in a nutshell is basically climate change has caused lots of weather patterns that are new. So, perfect example, North Carolina, the coast of North Carolina had previously had hurricanes, but the area of Asheville is very inward, it's mountainous, had never gotten a direct hit from a hurricane before. And you're talking about areas that had never been considered part of like a floodplain. And sure enough, whole cities and towns were washed away due to flooding. Now, if you were to think about, there had to have been growers in that area. And then with all that water coming from so many different locations, it's very easy to see how these contaminations can happen.
Yeah.
I mean, just crazy. So that's how we went full circle, that climate change then could lead to contamination. But I think it's brilliant that they're not just looking at, okay, these are the 259 people that were infected. What did they eat? And then stop it from there. Because by the time you've already eaten the salad and then you go back to the farm where that salad was grown, it's already been picked. You see what I mean? Yeah. So it's a little bit hard, but the fact that they used all the data and like really thought outside of the box, I think is brilliant. The only downside I see here is I was not worried about poop in my lettuce until last week when I had to worry about bird poop. But now I have to worry about sheep poop in my lettuce. And yeah, obviously this is logical and this is something that could happen to any farm, whether it be in United Kingdom or United States. But I have personally never put two and two together, and I sure as hell never thought it.
No, and like I think it kind of opens us up to really kind of consider, because flooding is becoming more prevalent, right? Yes. And we're not only talking about animal feces at that point, we're talking about cross contamination through sewage, through I mean, there's a lot of different types of contaminants. You're looking at businesses that use heavy chemicals. You've got
I was going to say like chemical runoffs, but
chemical runoff
even
from like
too,
mechanics.
they're blaming a lot of the wildfires in California on climate change and the way that the Santa Anas work and, different things like that. But think about when you have grassy areas that are on fire,
Yeah.
those animals have to go somewhere.
Yeah.
They have a lot of farming in California. What is stopping those animals from fleeing and now going onto a farm? And wherever animals are, they're going to poop.
Yeah. And I think, like, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're creating, I think that's the misconception a lot of times, as kind of a sidebar, but also related. Like, I think when people think about climate change and, like, it's not only does it accelerate things that already exist or at least have the potential to, but it also can create brand new situations that we hadn't considered. So, like, when, you mentioned that the use of historical data, like that's a new approach because we may not have determined what the issue was prior to this. And so you do have to start considering, okay, what's uphill, what's downhill, what's close by, like how do you protect from that? Like
Yeah.
it's it's
Well,
all
and
up in the air.
think about weird weather patterns.
Yeah.
Just it wasn't very long ago, just a couple weeks ago, it snowed in Florida. There were places on the panhandle of Florida that got 6 inches of snow. This is areas that for the last 100 years at most had gotten flurries, and they
Yeah.
got 6 inches of snow. That's insane. Nobody was prepared for that.
No.
We're not prepared in the South for snow, but I guarantee you the panhandle of Florida is sure as hell not ready for snow.
It was really interesting with that system and the way that it worked. Like if you looked at everything that was hit and how hard like New Orleans got hit, that's wild.
Yes.
But then you look at like so the storm, the way it came down and it scooped up a little. So like south, like halfway or a quarter of the way into Atlanta from the south got snow and below. But like if you were above like
The areas that
the
typically get snow in
yeah,
Georgia got
nothing.
nada, nothing.
Yeah, it's
I
wild.
mean, I
It
am
was
not a snow fan, and I was definitely rejoicing the fact that we didn't get snow. But
yeah.
everybody else in Georgia was mad. They were mad that South Georgia got snow and North Georgia didn't. It was a whole
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But so
Cuz
anyway,
snow,
let
snow.
us know down below. Have you ever thought about animals pooping in your lettuce? Because that sticks in my brain. It hurts.
Sorry
It
guys.
hurts.
When you talk about food,
Seriously,
you're
it
going to
hurts.
talk about poop. It is just what it is.
And that's part of the whole point is we're trying to start conversations. I'm not trying to scare you off lettuce, I promise, because I actually had a salad for dinner. But let me know, do you think that climate change can then cause more bacteria outbreaks, virus outbreaks? Let us know what your thoughts are.